Hi, welcome back once again to the program. Today I'm going to bring a teaching that I'm entitling Abraham's Prayer. I think many of us may want to get a hold of this today. If there's anyone that you've been concerned over about their soul, stay with me today and let's see what happened when Abraham prayed. I'm going to go into the book of Luke in the Passion Translation, chapter 17, and I'm going to read verses 28 through 30. 28 through 30. The days of the Son of Man can also be compared to the days of Lot. The people of that time lived their lives as normal. They got married, raised families, built homes and businesses, yet they were totally unaware of what was coming until the day Lot departed from Sodom. The sky opened up and rained fire and burning sulfur upon them, destroying everyone and everything they had built. So it will be on the day of the unveiling of the Son of Man. What got my attention on that verse, what it says that they were living their lives as normal. And yet, this town that is referred to here, it was like Sodom. Sodom. If you read up on in the book of Genesis about the towns of Sodom and Gomorrah, you will see nothing but the vilest, ugliest of sins that we find today. The same sins that were so terrible back then that God destroyed an entire 2 cities. And yet those same sins are going on today. God has put a warning out to the people, but I don't know how many of us are really listening. But Abraham, he had a relationship with God. And he knew that Lot was his nephew, and his nephew, who was a righteous young man, lived in Sodom. And so if we go over into the book of Genesis, and I'll use the New King James, but if we go over into the book of Genesis, let's read chapter 18, verse 17. And the Lord said, "Shall I hide from Abraham what I am doing?" He told Abraham what he was about to do. And then let's go on down to verse 20. And the Lord said, "Because of the outcry against Sodom and Gomorrah is great, and because their sin is very grave, I will go down now and see whether they have done altogether according to the outcry against it that has come to me, and if not, I will know." One of the things that I love about God is He doesn't go by hearsay. He checks it out. He's a righteous judge. He had determined that if it was what the outcry that was coming up to his ears, if it was in fact as sin-filled and as terrible as it was, then it was to be destroyed. But before he would do that, he would personally go and check on it. God, he checks, he doesn't just, I said it a while ago, he doesn't go by hearsay. His eyes and his heart is always just in hopes that all of the outcry was wrong. God is not about destruction, He's about restructuring. He restructures our lives. He saves us. But in this case, we will know in a minute, the outcry was correct. Let's see what Abraham did. Remember, his nephew lived in Sodom. And so we look over here. Let's see. Abraham, let me just tell it. Abraham said, well, God, what if there's 50 righteous people in the town? Will you spare the town? God said, yes, if there's 50, I'll spare it. Abraham said, well, how about 45? God said, yes, I'll spare it for 45. And then we know he worked his way on down with God. He said, well then, how about 30? Yes, I would spare it for 30. How about 20? Yes, I would spare it for 20. Then he says, oh, forgive me, Father, but let me ask you one more time. How about 10? Yes, I would spare it for 10. And then they went on, and we know that it was a terrible night for the angels who had gone into that town. They were being attacked by the demonic people, and I'm not even going to go into the sins. You'll read it. You know it. It's going on today. The men got Lot and his family out of Sodom and Gomorrah. There were no other righteous people in that town. Only Lot and his family, and even then his wife did not obey, and she looked back and was turned to a pillar of salt. But here's what I like about this. You see, Abraham stood in the gap, and then there's the love of God, because there weren't 10 in the town. It didn't add up to 10. The angels got Lot and his daughters and son-in-laws out, but it didn't add up to 10. How do you know it didn't? Because the town wasn't spared, and God had said it would be. But Abraham didn't say, but if there aren't 10, would you just pull Lot out? But God did. God pulled Lot and his family out and put them to safety before raining the fire and brimstone upon that town. God cares about us, but he will not tolerate sin very long. If he would destroy Sodom and Gomorrah for the sins of that time, we are so close on the verge of destruction, and we don't know it. In Luke chapter 17, let me reread this again. The days of the Son of Man can also be compared to the days of Lot. The people of that time lived their lives as normal. At that time, in the town where Lot lived, normal meant sin-filled. It meant ignoring God. And they treated that became the normal in their lives. Sin was the normal. There was marriage and giving in marriage. But there's a lot of marriages today that God cannot bless, cannot honor. There are a lot of things that we are beginning to call as normal. And I put this out as a very strong caution for us today. That is not as normal. And therefore, it says, yet they were totally unaware of what was coming until the day of Lot departed from Sodom. Now Lot, as I said, was a godly man. When you pull out the one godly man and his family from a city, when you pull righteousness out, don't be around in that town at that point. Fire and brimstone was hailed down. You see, without righteousness, the town itself will implode. There must be righteousness upon the face of the earth. But I love the fact that Abraham prayed and God heard. No matter how deep and how dark a situation your family is in right now, if you will stand in the gap as Abraham did for Lot and his family, God will answer. That town may be destroyed. That surrounding may be destroyed. But God knows how, if He has to send an angel, to get your loved one out if they will call upon the Lord. So do continue to stand in the gap. Hold in there. I think the example of Abraham praying and talking to God on behalf of Lot was given for us today, so that we know not to give up. Hold on. Those prayers avail much. Thank you for staying with me today. I pray blessings over each one of you as you are praying for others. God is listening. Keep watching, sharing, tell a friend, comment, and subscribe. God bless you.